everyone. Welcome to Tricks of the Game. I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to be talking about what is the best kind of playing card deck to use when you're working with people with dementia, cognitive disabilities, Alzheimer's, and also people with physical disabilities like decreased vision. So what I feel is the most important first rule of thumb is if you have a resident or if you're working in a home setting or assisted living, someone that you work with, and they say, I want to bring my deck of cards to the gathering to play whatever with, can I do that? The answer should always be yes. And there's a reason why I say that. If a person is particularly attached to a single deck of cards, their personal deck of cards, there's probably a really good reason for it. It either is a comfort item for them and it makes the transition from being in their room to being in a group with other people easier because they feel comforted by having that like a comfort blankie, but only it's a deck of cards. And that's one possible reason why it might be why they're asking to bring their own deck, and it might make them feel more comfortable going into a group situation, especially if they're not the kind of person that usually likes to go into a group setting. So allowing them to have that familiarity is a really big deal, and it can make the difference between a person going to an activity, socializing and interacting with their peers and having a better quality of life, or them choosing to stay behind. So that's one reason why allowing someone to bring their own deck of cards is very important. The other reason, and this is one that I've encountered in my work, is that someone may have a visual impairment or some other impairment that they are ashamed of or embarrassed about and have worked very hard to hide from their peers and people they know, and they are comfortable playing cards with this deck. They know this deck, and they're worried that if they go somewhere with a different deck of cards that they're going to be found out, if you were, that issue is going to come to light. I had a resident at my nursing home who I was very close with, but she was a very private person, and she always asked, she said, can I bring my deck? And she actually had a deck, it was like this, she had her name on it, and we always said yes, because that was fine. And it was a couple years later that I found out in one of our alone moments, she told me that the reason she liked that deck was because the numbers were bigger in the corner than on a regular deck, and her vision was deteriorating. That she was a very outgoing, independent woman. She was one of those people who had never relied on anyone else to do anything for her, and she didn't want people knowing that her vision was as bad as it was. So she knew that if she had her deck of cards, that she could see the deck and she'd be okay. If we said we were, using a different deck, she'd usually say, I'm not gonna come. And in my opinion, there's no reason to take away someone's dignity or risk putting that in harm's way just for a game. as someone who works with the elderly and those with various issues later in life, we should be doing everything we can to promote their dignity, not to take it away. So whether it's because the deck is a familiar item and it makes them feel more comfortable transitioning from being alone to being in a group, and it's like a social transition aid, or they have worked with that deck enough that they feel comfortable with it and they know that deck. Maybe they feel that with some kind of impairment like vision or hearing or color vision impairment, they feel like they won't see other decks as well. Then for both reasons, I think bringing your own deck is important. And I think that it's also something that it's a conversation piece. So you get 4 people together, they, oh, that's your deck. Oh, that's nice. How long have you had it? And it immediately becomes a conversation starter. So that's my golden rule. First and foremost, if a resident or the person you're working with says, can we use my deck? My favorite deck, my personal deck, the answer should always be yes, unless there's a really good reason why you can't. But the answer should always be yes, because the chances are what they're not saying is that I have an issue, whether it's with transitioning into a group of people from being alone, whether it's a physical issue with vision, whatever it is, they're saying, this deck makes me feel secure enough to go out and be with my peers. And that's the kind of thing we want to promote. So that is rule number 1 when trying to find out what deck you should use with your residents.